The author has pulled things out of their timelines and loaded them to the beginning of the book in order to impress his readers, because they needed to have a different view of Jesus. Before John dies, before he goes on, and at this point it appears that he is the last of the disciples that follow Jesus that is still alive, he needs them to know that they have some misconceptions of Jesus. And so he loads the front of his book with some stories. Stories that were designed to shake them up. Last week we looked at Jesus clearing the temple, how he fashioned a whip. Carpenter fashioning a whip and driving people out. Because they had come to see Jesus as more of a passive, kind of easygoing person instead of a person who was in control of his own situation. Jesus is not going to go to the cross because of some unfortunate circumstances. He's going to go because he planned it. And he's going to lay his life down. In John chapter 3, we have this really interesting story. And before you start, I have to tell you an interesting story. When I was contacted about working with Southside, they asked me for a copy of a sermon. And I had done one because part of the ordination process you had to have a sermon copied. And it happened to be on John chapter 3, on Nicodemus, and it was on a Super 8 cassette, which at one time was high technology stuff. So I packaged that off and sent it to Ken, and he got together with the search committee, and nobody could play a Super 8 cassette. They never got to see that sermon or hear that sermon. And I wonder if I would have come if they would have chanced it. But anyway, we're going to know, because we're going to look at John chapter 3, and then after this you can say, wow, if only we had a Super 8 cassette player, we would have known better, okay? You'll know now. This is the fun part. This is where we get a chance to talk about Jesus, and talk about Jesus in a way that might rattle us a little bit, because we need to be rattled. In chapter 1 verse 3 it says, "Now there was a man." Now that is significant when you read the book of John. That's what he said about John the Baptist. Now there was a man named John. And he's going to, in the next chapter, he's going to talk about, now there was a woman who was a Samaritan. This is in comparison to Jesus, who is the Logos that we talked about in chapter 1. Here's a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a member of the Jewish ruling council. He was one of the 70, one of the Sanhedrin, one of those who got to make life and death decisions, got to make laws, got to repeal laws, got to apply laws. This is the highest court in the land. This is one of those things that everybody aspires to, because they were governed by the law of Moses. So if you were really a student of Moses, and you were a very righteous man, you could become, one day in your life, a part of the Sanhedrin. This is like a member of our Supreme Court. If they showed up, opened the door in the back, and lo and behold, one of our Supreme Court comes to visit, would you make any special notice they were there? Would you treat them with respect? Right? This man was a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night. And this is going to be a big deal, the fact that he came at night, because they didn't travel at night then. You didn't go out at night. You didn't run down to CVS at night. You didn't go down to Winn-Dixie at night. You didn't go anywhere at night because it just wasn't safe. They didn't have street lights. They didn't have headlights. Best you could do with a torch or a little lamp. Night was where the people who were evil reigned. You stayed in at night. This man came to Jesus at night. And he came and he said, Rabbi, or teacher, we know you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the miraculous signs you are doing if God were not with him. Well done, Nicodemus. Well done. He does something strange here, though. He uses the plural personal pronoun. We know you are from God. Have you ever had someone talk to you in plural? When you look around and you say, who's the we? Or you got a mouse in your pocket? Who's we? We know you're from God. This is if you ever want to lend authority to your argument or a statement, what do? You use we. Yeah, we have come to understand. Because it's not just me, it's, us. And when you assume we from somebody who's a Jewish ruling council, what would you assume? Yeah. We figured this out, Jesus. You're from God. Nobody else could do these signs that you're doing. Now, if you were Jesus, wouldn't you get excited about that? Hey, they got it. They've got it. The Jewish ruling council, the elders, the supreme religious people have figured this out. I came from God. You'd say, Peter, get this man something to drink. Let's have him sit down. Let's chat about this. This is great. He's got something here. But that's not how Jesus responded. And at this point, I have to tell you, it'd be better if we all spoke Greek. Because our translators lose something here. Because in Greek, which is what John was written in, what Nicodemus has actually literally said, he said, we see you are from God. We see it. And what Jesus will do with his conversation with Nicodemus, he will pick up on the verb. And he will make another statement. If you look down here in verse 3, he says, in reply, Jesus declared, I tell you the truth, unless a man is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Now, for those of us who read this in English, it looks like non-sequential. Like, what are you doing? But here's what he's done. He said, we see that you're from God. And he said, unless you're born again, Nicodemus, you can't see what God is doing. You can't see the realm in which God is king. You cannot see the spiritual life. You don't know anything. And then we get stuck on this born again. Unless you're born again. Boy, how many debates have you had about born again? Are you a born again Christian? You seen the bumper stickers that I was born fine the first time? You seen those bumper stickers? Yeah, it's funny what we put on bumper stickers, right? Try to erase all of that and just think of it like this. Unless you start all over. This is what would happen when you would be born again, right? Unless you start all over, Nicodemus, you can't see what God is doing. Ouch. How would you take that? I mean, hey, at least you came to tell Jesus we acknowledge you're from God, whoever the we is in this situation. Right? Yeah, you came at night. You didn't want anybody to see you. Just in case this didn't go well. But at least you came. And he just told you that unless you start all over, you can't see anything related to God. Ouch. So Nicodemus says this.